The zombie patriarchy lies in state. Aren't you glad we had the American Revolution? The line of people stretches more than 5 miles long. They will wait up to 35 hours in the rain to get a glimpse through a narrow 2-foot window of the dead queen in a closed casket. That's what they're waiting for. The men will bow, the women will curtsy, and they will move on to keep the line moving. They won't even see her embalmed face, just a draped coffin with the flowers piled on it. 1 million people want to see the corpse in the coffin. Only 350,000 will be allowed, we're told. This is why the streets of London have been lined for nights with eager visitors. Insanity. I ask myself, are these the people who gave us the Magna Carta and the British Constitution, which inspired the Bill of Rights and the American Constitution? How do these people reconcile the medieval hereditary birthright of primogeniture with their meritocratic system of self-governance? When Elizabeth was crowned queen in the 1950s, around a third of people in Britain still believed she was directly appointed by God. The Protestant God, that is. Do they still believe that the royals are appointed by God? I don't know. I'm flummoxed. All week, the Western world has been watching the comings and goings of this 96-year-old body. Most recently, it arrived to Westminster Hall at last for the final 3 days of public viewing, kind of viewing. This was preceded by the procession that took the body to Edinburgh for an earlier public viewing. The cortege carrying the royal embalmed body arrived at the Palace of Holyrood House in the Scottish capital of Edinburgh last Sunday after travelling the 100-mile journey from Balmoral Castle, the royal estate where the Queen died. The convoy carrying the body had snaked through the hills and forests of the Scottish Highlands. The route took the body through villages and towns which were lined by Her Majesty's subjects. Is this the 21st century? The Western world then had to watch the body get on a plane to London. And we saw the London crowds lining up to sleep in the streets overnight in the rain in order to have a 10-second viewing of the dead, which brings to mind Pharaonic funereal traditions. I feel watching this as if I'm living in prehistoric times. The multitudes have been in line since dawn and are still waiting and will be waiting until tomorrow because, as a 50-something-year-old woman waiting in line explained when interviewed, the Queen has been the mainstay in their lives. Is there so much chaos and change and insecurity and anxiety in modern life that the ruler is the one source of stability, the one who collects our taxes and lives off of them, and pays for their self-perpetuation? I mean, the Crown has hundreds and hundreds of people doing the best PR to assure that we never forget about them. In honor of the validity of this national past, 2 million people will be going to attend the royal funeral in London. Does the past justify its own permanence? Does the ancient regime justify our devolution back to the Dark Ages? Is this what Justice Alito meant when he reasoned that abortion isn't legal because it hadn't been in Puritan times? Look at the photos. If you haven't seen them, you can see them in my article. Because royals don't deign to be buried underground, like the rest of us mortals, even though they're clearly mortals themselves, the golden coffin of the Queen is lined in lead in order to keep her body from liquefying too fast. The Queen's coffin weighs 710 pounds, so the pallbearers practiced for months, walking in step while lifting so much weight, which I'm sure is hurting their backs, I feel sympathy for them. They are meant to feel honored to lift this dead weight all over the country at the head of this over-the-top pageantry. I can't help but think that millions of people die in wars precisely because they have been successfully brainwashed to this extent, where they would think all of this makes sense and is reasonable and proper and newsworthy and worthy of respect and admiration. I mean, she kept the job that she was so handsomely rewarded for. And like every other woman of her generation, didn't voice her opinions. That's it. The multiple daily costume changes undertaken by the new King Charles bring to my mind overrated King Tut show that I went to see in London some years ago. Tutankhamen, dead circa 1323 BC and discovered by a British lord in 1922, struck me back then as all pomp and no substance, a waste of resources, basically. The pharaohs' worship of themselves was designed to teach us, the people, their people, and the people of the future, that it is our ancestors who give us our value. Can any idea be less democratic? Can any idea be less 21st century? Isn't this why we waged the American Revolution? Isn't this why we waged all kinds of revolutions? So why is American TV bombarding us with blanket coverage of this funeral? What was the point of it all? Do they want us to go back to just adoring celebrity worship? The British Crown represents the continuity of antiquated arbitrary rights won by violent means long ago. The right of rule, the right of conquest, the right of succession, the right of precedence, the right of one family to rule over all the other families they conquered for as long as they can convince the others of that right. The right to rule by self-decree and to enforce monocivilization. The British Crown basically replaced the Roman Church that replaced the Roman Empire. The British royals took on the rituals of the Christian Church, which had taken on the rituals of ancient Rome, and then decided to become heads of church to just concentrate power in themselves even more. And this type of thing is what all the wars of Europe were fought over. Control of the church, control of the people's faith, whether it was Catholic or Protestant or Roman or Orthodox. The church controlled the faith of millions and millions of people. Propaganda. So the old costumes and the rehashed pageantry that we are forced to watch on TV that date from thousands of years ago are being used still to this day to convince us, the public, that select firstborn members of a select family maintain a right to rule, or at least to matter more than others, in Europe in the year 2022. Last month, we watched the Prime Minister of England get kicked out of office a day after he received a vote of no confidence, pretty unceremoniously, but the royals don't get voted out of office because they represent the glory of United Kingdom of the 15th century. Metaphors, it's all metaphors. Our culture has become all metaphor, no substance. The British Crown knows that it is an anachronism. King Charles, the first monarch to have a university degree, knows that his perks are a historic scam. Like any PR machine, the Crown produces seductive spectacle and mind-blowing pomp to assure its own absurd perpetuation, and we just swallow it, we eat it up, we want more, just because bread and spectacle, what the ancient Roman emperors gave to the masses, the opium of the people. We're all, as news consumers, asked to carry around this dead weight of inherited insanity and inequality and pass it forward to future generations. It is a heavy and ludicrous weight. We don't protest the obsolete hierarchy it alludes to because nostalgia is a powerful emotional motivator driven by the mass delusion of centrally engineered cultural misinformation campaigns. Nostalgia, as it turns out, is not a positive feeling. As a Greek, I should know. My national identity has been stuck somewhere between 535 BC and 323 BC.